We're going to be talking about understanding the framework for Afri-Caribbean Investment Summit. We're going to have the Executive Secretary, Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, to help us do this. But the person is duly represented by Mr. Emmanuel Longza. We're supposed to have Aisha, Rimi, who was appointed as NIPC's Executive Secretary in October 2023. And she has over 30 years experience in corporate law, foreign investments, and regulatory compliance. She co-founded Africa Law Practice and previously worked with top firms in Nigeria and the US At NIPC, she focuses on attracting foreign investment and driving economic growth. She cannot be with us here physically, but she has sent Emmanuel Longza to come and speak to us on this important topic. Ladies and gentlemen, if it's present here, please can we put our hands together for Emmanuel Longza? Oh, there he is. Please, let's encourage him. You're welcome, sir.
Good afternoon. I almost thought everybody has left the building. Good afternoon. Good. So, I'm here representing the Executive Secretary of Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission. But before then, I'm not here alone. I came with a whole team. A team of about 7 staff from NIPC. And the team is led by Haji Agana Wakil. Can you stand up for recognition, please? Now, that's how serious we've attached importance to this event. Now, for those who would like to go into B2B matchmaking process, you can meet any of them, and they will guide you through the process. Let me go ahead and then take my presentation. So we'll be looking at understanding the framework for Afri-Caribbean investment promotion. Here we will identify the key pillars for or of the Afri-Caribbean framework. We'll equally look at some of the challenges that there are and then how to now go about them. First, Africa and the Caribbean share a deep historical, cultural, and economic ties. However, despite these connections, trade and investment flow between the two regions have remained relatively low. Unlocking the potential of the African-Caribbean investment requires a structured framework. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. That framework will help ease cross-border collaboration. It will equally ease business operations and promote mutually beneficial economic growth. But just to give you an idea of some of the legal framework we have in Nigeria that has to do with investment promotion. We've got the NIPC Act and others. Now, let's look at the 3 key pillars. First, we'll be looking at the policy and institutional framework. We'll equally be looking at the trade facilitation and market access. Then we'll look at Afri-Caribbean investment collaboration. There are other pillars, but then we will be discussing just these 3. But others could include business facilitation and financing. Can I control from here? Yeah, I think I can. So let's start with the first one. Policy and institutional framework. Strong policy and regulatory frameworks are essential for investment attraction. That's key. Second, government when I'm talking about governments now, I'm talking about both the government of Nigeria and that of the Caribbean regions must establish bilateral investment agreements like the Investment Promotion and Protection Agreement, the IPPA, and the Double Taxation Treaties, the DTTS, to create a predictable investment climate. At this point, I must acknowledge that looking through the files, the process of the IPPA has been initiated, and discussion has started in that region. Yeah, Madam Minor is clapping because maybe she had gone through the files. So we would like to encourage that should be concluded. NIPC will be there to provide the legal and, of course, the guidance to get it completed. But the process is handled by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and, of course, the Ministry of Justice. Then investment promotion agencies, IPAS, from both regions must ensure and enhance institutional collaboration and cooperation to streamline market entry and support business expansion. So what are we saying here? We're saying we should find a way where the investment promotion agencies within the Caribbean region must go into cooperation and collaboration with either the African IPAs or in particular the Nigerian IPA. Okay. So second, which is one of the pillars that we'll be looking at, is the trade facilitation and market access. We need to encourage preferential trade agreements. Preferential here refers to those agreements that provide better trading conditions than those available under the standard WTO, World Trade Organization. Now, that will reduce tariff and non-tariff barriers. Then, the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. I'm sure the Afri-Caribbean Bank is in the house, and I must commend them for coming up with this initiative, because this is one initiative that can ease the process of trade between Africa and the Caribbean. Then enhance connectivity through direct shipping and aviation. Third, we need to leverage African continental free trade and the Caribbean community bloc, which is what we call the CARICOM. And that can promote regional integration. Okay. Good. So I'm looking at the third now. This is going to be the third pillar, which is very important to us. That is the Afri-Caribbean investment collaboration. After the first two, if you don't have this, you may not get anywhere. So there has to be a deliberate attempt and effort to go into mutually beneficial sectoral opportunities. And here, what are those opportunities? I'm going to take some time and dwell into this, or dwell on this. First, exploring sectors for collaboration. Leveraging our respective strength. This time I'm looking at the Caribbean strength, Caribbean regions, their strength, and the African strength, in particular the Nigerian strength, where we both have competitive advantages, and when we look at those strengths, we can capitalize on them and then move forward. Now, those strengths can unlock new prospects. They can drive economic growth and create sustainable development opportunities for both countries and regions. Now, as African businesses look up, we are trying to see how we can benefit from collaborations within the sectors which I've listed here: agric and agro processing, trade, manufacturing and infrastructure, tourism and digital services. Then we have energy and financial services. I will take a deep dive, and so we look at this closely. So we're starting with agriculture and agro-processing. Let's first of all look at the strength of the Caribbean regions and look at the strength of Nigeria. And when I say Nigeria, then of course that represents Africa, isn't it? Yes, it is. Now, if you look at Nigerian strength when it comes to agriculture, Nigeria fertile soil is indeed ideal for farming. How do we know that? We have a lot of it. And I'm going to give you an example using statistics here now. The MBS National Agricultural Sampling Census of 2002 has it that in 2022, the agricultural area in Nigeria is about 78 million hectares. Now, within that 78 million hectares, we have about 34 million hectares that is considered as the arable land. Now, of course, the agricultural area will include pastoral and grazing land and others. But just looking at the arable, we have 34 million. But guess what? Within that 34 million, only 50, in fact, it's 46% of that land is cultivated. So we're left with almost 54 percent of land that is not cultivated, and it's arable. That tells you the kind of opportunity that we have here. Now, looking at their Caribbean strength, they have export market for tropical products. They have expertise in processing and packaging, high demand for food imports. And therefore, if you look at the strength of those two nations, you would now come down to the conclusion that, look, we can have joint venture in what? Agro-processing, talking about cassava, flour, and others. Livestock and meat processing collaboration. Caribbean investment in agricultural or Nigerian commercial farming for food security, and export for Nigerian agricultural produce. From my research, and I stand to be corrected, I heard the Caribbeans import almost 60% of their food products. Yeah, so I have him there notching his head in agreement. And what that means is that you can export agricultural products right from Nigeria to that point. Let's move on. Okay, so what about infrastructure? Let's start with the strength. The strength of Nigeria is that we are fast moving into urbanization. Most of our villages are now opening up, and they are beginning now becoming urban areas. And so there's a huge demand for infrastructural facilities. Now, those demands has to be made at some point. Housing, and then commercial connectivity within the areas. That's another factor to consider. The Caribbean strength, expertise in sustainable infrastructure and eco-friendly estate. Thank God we watched a video just shortly before my presentation, and that tells you where they are going. They're already talking about getting into smart cities and smart estates. Now that's where we can come in. So what are the areas for collaboration? Here, the Caribbean real estate firms can invest in Nigerian housing and commercial projects. And of course, they will bring on board their smart city expertise in this. What about joint infrastructure development projects? Talking about ports, highways, and energy system. These are all areas that are open for investments. Then smart cities, I've mentioned that before. So let's move on. Trade and logistics, export and imports partnership. Nigerian strength. We are, of course, the largest market in Africa. And somebody asks, what's our population? I heard somebody echoed more than 250 million. And you heard about their own population, right? Yes. Now, with that kind of population and strength, if you look at the Caribbean strength, they have a strategic location as a trade gateway to the north and then the South America. What does that mean in terms of cooperation now? What it means is that the Caribbeans can import some of our solid minerals, and you can see them over there. I'm going to talk more about that, but then there are a lot of them. And so for some of them who are here, the Caribbeans, you get to see what we have in terms of solid minerals. And then we can export Nigerian-made products, garment, leather, processed food to that end as well. And talking about logistics, talking about shipping partnership. Now, it's important, now that I'm going to talk about solid minerals, important, we know that the Nigerian government has designated 7 strategic minerals in Nigeria. And would you want to know them? Let me move right there so we look at them. These are the strategic minerals that government has prioritized them to attract investment, boost industrialization, and reduce import dependence. 1, coal. And we said it's used for power generation and industrial application. Where is it found? Kogi, Benue, Enugu, Gombe. Bitumen, limestone, iron ore, barite, gold, lead and zinc. Now, and zinc. All this are found in these different locations, as you can see. And they can be good for export to the Caribbean regions. Now, I've just shown you 7 strategic. But in Nigeria, as it stands, we have more than 500 locations where they have solid minerals. And these 500 locations are distributed all over Nigeria. And you can see them and their location. Good. So, what are the investment opportunities there in solid minerals? Nigeria presents diverse investment opportunities across multiple sectors. First, we have exploration and mining. We have processing and, of course, value addition. We encourage that this solid minerals that we have, value should be added to it first before you take them out. We have equipment and technology supply. We have trade and export. And there are generous tax or government incentive attached to this. First, you've got tax holidays, up to about 3 to 5 years of tax exemption for mining companies. You have duty-free imports, no import duties on the mining equipment that you'll be using. And then you have 100% foreign ownership. It means investors can fully own their mining operations and infrastructural support from government. Quickly, we're moving to manufacturing and industrialization. Don't forget, this is the 3rd pillar for the framework that we're talking about. And we said, in terms of manufacturing and industrialization, we're looking at strengths. First, the Nigerian strength, growing industry sector, access to raw materials, low-cost labor, and, of course, for the Caribbean strength, you could see duty-free trade access to North America and EU via the CARICOM and then the economic partnership agreements. Now, so you can see we have complementary strength that we can use to now begin to cooperate with each other. And so the investment opportunities for us when it comes to manufacturing and industrialization, 1 is for the regions to be able to develop special economic zones and industrial parks. 2, to encourage technology-driven industries and automation. 3rd, manufacturing hubs in Nigeria for export to the Caribbean. And of course, it can be vice versa. Then the Caribbean company investing in Nigerian factories can, of course, use that to establish local and international export markets. Then joint venture can happen in terms of pharmaceutical, cosmetics, and textile production. Tourism and hospitality. Here, of course, the Caribbean strength is quite heavy. We must give it to them because they have world-class tourism industry. They are very strong in terms of the brand and the hotels that they have. But the Nigerian strength is that we have a growing tourism sector as well. And therefore, in terms of heritage tourism potential, we have them. And if we're looking at areas for opportunity, then it means Nigeria can invest in the Caribbean resort and hotel for economic viabilities. The Caribbean expertise in developing Nigerian hospitality sector. So it means that since they are very good and their strength is in world-class tourism industry, we can have them to now give us that expertise to develop our tourism sector as well. Then cultural and heritage tourism cooperation by linking Caribbean, African history through travel programs. Okay, exploring areas for collaboration. What about digital economic and financial services? First, we have cross-border investment in tech and startups. We have strengthening fintech, remittances, digital commerce, and other platforms. And we're emphasizing again that if you're utilizing the PAPSS, which is one of those digital financial systems that has been created by Afri-Caribbean Bank, then it will help the transaction between Africa and the Caribbean. Now, by fostering economic collaboration between Africa and the Caribbean nations, both regions can create a very robust investment ecosystem that can drive prosperity, that can sustain development and strategic engagement in trade, agriculture, energy, tourism, as I had mentioned before. But to facilitate investment partnership, throughout today we've been talking about collaboration and partnership, but we need to have a platform because 3 days is not enough to create those partnerships. And so I will be unveiling to you a partnership that encourages collaboration, joint venture, and strategic alliances between global investors and businesses in ACP, which is the African Caribbean specific member states. I don't know if we all know about the ACP platform. Let me do a sampling. Do we know about the ACP online platform? Please, can we just indicate? Okay, if we don't, this is it. This is a platform that has been created by European Union and UNIDO for the purposes of matchmaking. Now, on this platform, all the countries within the ACP, which is the African Caribbean Pacific, are members. It means you can profile and put your project there. And any other person can go in there and be able to identify your project. For us in Nigeria, we have the Nigerian Campaign Project. If you check here, you would see we have already 25 projects which we have uploaded. Now, if you go there, you could check St. Kitts as well and look at the projects that they have. Now, you can pick any of these projects and check what they have and see if this is the kind of project you would like to go into partnership with. So for our investors, the Nigerian investors, if you want to be on this project, all you need to do is to meet up with one of our staff, give them your email address. They would send you what we call the investment opportunity profiling form. We profile the project, and then we put it up there. Then every person within the ACP will be able to have access to it. But it's not restricted to ACP alone. It is open to the investing world. So I would like, for those of us who are here, to go back home and try it. We can check what projects are in the set kits country and then other Caribbean country and see what has been uploaded. Then we can now start talking and then go into partnership. Now, challenges, I would still conclude, but challenges to African Caribbean investment promotion. Despite the strong prospects, several challenges must be addressed. And I'll start with the first one. Limited market intelligence and investor awareness hinder investment decision making. This is key. So it means we need to have a platform that will get to know about each other and know about each other's investment prospects. And I've just shown you one. Then we have bureaucratic red tapes and then regulatory inconsistency, which tend to discourage investors. Then inadequate infrastructure and financial instruments that make cross-border investment less attractive. Then the last here is the currency exchange and payment settlement mechanism. It needs to be strengthened, even though the Afri-Caribbean Bank has done a good job. Now, what are the strategies that we need to be able to strengthen the investment promotion framework that we had highlighted initially? To overcome these challenges, the following strategies must be implemented. And these are quite key. One, harmonizing investment policies. If we're able to standardize the business regulations and incentive across both regions, then it's easier for us to do business. Then strengthening institutional collaboration. And we said this can be done by having the same institutions that are within the Caribbean region and Nigerian region go into cooperation. And then you create or leverage technology and digital platform, which is one of the things that I've just shown, that if we're able to now have digital investment platform like the ACP platform that I showed you, then it means people from the Caribbean region can upload their projects. We in Nigeria and other African countries can upload our projects. Then we can go there and begin to talk to each other and find the project that best suit our investment prospects. Then, of course, the capacity building and knowledge exchange. This will facilitate investment forums, trade missions, and knowledge sharing initiatives. So we need to do more of this. And then public-private partnership, which means we need to encourage joint venture and co-investment project in the key sectors that we have highlighted. In conclusion, I would like to state here that the African Caribbean investment landscape holds immense potential. By building a robust framework that fosters cooperation, improve policy coherence, and facilitate private sector engagement, we can unlock the unprecedented opportunities that we have seen. And of course, shared the prosperity that we have. And we said this summit have been able to provide us with that platform to start unlocking those opportunities that we've had. And therefore, I need us to clap for the organizers particularly. And I hope we're going to make this consistent and then make it yearly if possible. And I encourage all stakeholders to collaborate in transforming our historical ties into sustainable economic partnership. Thank you, and thank you very much.